everyone, and welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Ruth Makers, and I'm excited to be here once again. And we will be having a great time. Remember, this is the Good Morning Education Show, and we're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, and the entire world. And it's a great morning. We're talking today about scandal-free education. But before then, as usual, we have our headlines that we review from time to time, and we try as much as possible, to show you what's happening around the world of education, within the world of education, so that we can get things sorted out. And um, we have quite a number of headlines today, and some uh, probably things you probably have heard over the weekend. And let's just take some of these headlines, and then we look forward to having some of our analysts join us on the show as we try to tackle the conversation of the day, the subject matter of the day. So the scandal-free education. Remember, you can catch your favorite Good Morning Education show Mondays to Sundays, or Mondays to Fridays. We are live 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Saturdays, we start our weekend special, which is 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. And on Sunday, we actually alternate the time to 5 p.m. and also 6 p.m. I believe it's going to be a great time on the show today. And we will learn a lot, we'll share a lot, we'll gain a lot, we'll have a lot on the show. All right. So let's get started. 18-year-old school dropout who returned 20 million naira he found on road gets 4 million naira scholarship and job from president. That's one amazing news there. You know, quite an amazing news indeed. Um, that is rare, but thank God the boy gets rewarded, and we need to begin to reinforce positive values, value education, value reorientation, so that people understand that doing good is not stupid, is not bad, is not being foolish. Because in the country we live today, too many people live for themselves. So imagine if that boy then returns and nobody will know, most likely. But the boy had proof. Look how what happens. It's a case of one good turn deserves another. I think that boy deserves much more than that in support, so that it can serve as an encouragement to others, not just an encouragement to others, but an inspiration to others to do same. Right? That's what I feel. So we're going to have the next headline afterwards, and then we'll go back to the conversation of the day. So moving on from the 18-year-old, we're going straight to another headline, and this is from Federal Polytechnic Bauchi. Fed Poly Bauchi sacks two lecturers for alleged female harassment. Alleged female harassment. Wow, they're still trying to come out of these old issues, and here we are again. So sad. And then it's not just that, they also dismiss 30 students over forgery. So the final polytechnic is really not taking it easy on these matters. Um, I think that it's also good for the university to demonstrate transparency that, look, if we can touch the lecturers, then there's nobody above board. it's important for people to also understand that they need to be responsible enough and do things appropriately, especially when it comes to the workplace. We hope they learn better. I hope they do better as well. So, um, yeah, that's that. We move on to the next headline, and the next headline says glorified secondary school reactions as video captures varsity students kneeling down for missing lectures. Kneeling down for missing lectures. So people consider this as glorified secondary school because of this act. And knowing full well that a lot of people don't expect at this stage in most education pursuits, you know, that you have people who are subjected to punishment of this nature. Well, like they say, different strokes for different folks. Good morning, Follow. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. It's a good time, and it's good to be this. Hello.
Follow, are you there?
Yes, I am. I
I
wasn't
can hear
sure.
your voice seems very low.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you could hear me. Good morning.
Okay, it's better now.
Oh, right.
And we want to say good morning to Ayobolanle and thank you for joining. All right, so let's move to you saw the headlines, right? I think it seems like we lost today. All right, embrace dialogue. Buhari begs ASU others. Any thoughts on that, Fee?
Is the emphasis on the bed. It really would be, it would be a
You said?
different approach if we have a process. I am asking if the emphasis is on the bed, because that would be a different approach if the president were to be taking up
We still can't hear
just
you
for
clearly.
dialogue. Well, so far we're not better now. Is it better now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I said it would be a different approach if the president were to be begging us to embrace dialogue. So far, we're not sure which of the two parties has not been open to dialogue. But yeah, for both for both parties or for all parties involved in issues regarding us, it's been long coming. There is a need for them all to not just embrace dialogue, but for them to also honor whatever they decide on, the decisions they come up to. It's essential for them to honor it so that we don't keep having a back and forth and then people begging each other. This
And okay, move over to another headline. Um, be ready to face life challenges after graduation. This is coming from the University of Ilorin. The VC was addressing his people. Yes.
well, life challenges don't happen only after graduation. So maybe what the education system should be doing is getting students ready for life right from the start. People face life challenges days at different points in their lives, and the kind of challenges that people face are different. So I know, I think I have an idea that what the VC is saying is that after graduation, well, many of them are more independent because quite a number of students these days are actually independent from school. They're fending for themselves, they're paying their way through school. But now he's saying you're going to be much more independent. You're going to be responsible for your life, and the challenges are different now until they get to the point of graduation from or preparing to, because this is not even preparation. This is like telling them, well, okay, so right after graduation, those challenges when they come against them. So we really should be preparing our students for life right from the beginning. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And so many headlines that we might not be able to take today. I would like to take advantage of the presence at the moment so that we can just deal with some key burning issues and then we will move on to others. And of course, the headlines have been posted so we can catch it. But let's take this headline: ICC to probe kidnapping of students. That's the International Criminal Court. It's going to looking at that. What's your take?
Probing the kidnapping of students is fine if at the end of the probe we're going to have a workable solution going forward. Say this is not going to happen anymore. Our students will be safe in schools. Education, the threat of insecurity will not be there anymore to education. That would be really fine. But if it's a probe to just follow righteousness and to look like international bodies are interested, or to make it look like somebody or some people are working, then I'm not sure that this we really want to bother ourselves with a probe. But if we're coming up with workable solutions and we're coming up with an assurance and a pledge to say, look, we will not have to deal with this level or with insecurity at all anymore in the sector, then I'm all for it.
All right. Um, okay. So, like I said, let's just try to focus on the conversation of this morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. If you're just joining us, and we will be having an interesting conversation today. We're talking about scandal-free education, scandal-free education, and I have the info here who has joined, and I hope that short as possible time we're able to do as much justice to the conversation, of the day. Yeah. Okay, so let's go straight to the topic: scandal-free education. Let me ask, or let's even start by qualifying what scandal means, because a lot of people seem to not have the best of perspective. So, what is scandal free? When you say scandal, what does it mean? Your mic is muted for you. Okay, so while we wait, okay,
Okay. Can you hear me now?
yes, it's faint, but I can hear you.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, well, a scandal would be an event that is shocking. A scandal could be regarded as an event that is shocking to the generality of people experiencing it or going through it, or an event or an experience that attracts disapproval majority of the population or of the audience. Scandals are not interesting experiences for people to go through. They are not events that people want to find themselves in. So, well, I don't think there is any uh, con any context where we can use scandal positively. It's that event that or that experience that doesn't leave a good taste in the mouth and which as much as possible no one wants to go through. I'm not hearing you.
Okay. So when we talk about scandal, when we talk about scandal-free, especially scandal-free education, is actually opposing or pushing the fact that, you know, we're looking at something that we're looking at an education that is free and void, of any form of outrage, wrong, any form of legal wrong, moral wrong, social wrong, as the case may be. You know, yes, just like we have one of our tribe members sending this to chat. A lot of people have heard several things, and the question is it possible to have scandal-free education? Is it possible? Thing, is it possible?
Sorry, the network was not very friendly for most of what you said. I didn't hear.
Is it possible to have a
Take it again,
scandal-free?
please.
Is it possible to have a scandal-free education?
Okay, I'm not sure if it's at my end, but I'm really not hearing you.
Is it possible to have a scandal-free education?
Well, I won't say it's totally possible to have scandal-free education because scandals are they originate from human relationships, and human beings are unpredictable. Sometimes even people cannot predict what they can do in certain situations or circumstances. So I won't say it's possible to have a completely scandal-free system, but it's possible to bring it down to a minimum. And bringing it down to a minimum would involve a number of things. Best practices. You have you have principles that guide the practice and engagement in education. You know, the people are also held responsible for their action. So when we have things like that put in place, then it's possible to reduce to the minimum scandals in education. But to say that it will completely be free, I think that would be us really, really going overboard to expect the impossible.
Thank you so much. I think that um, from the introductory part of conversation, it just opens us to see the fact and the reality that we must always make sure that for our system of education, especially for our schools, we are not on a reactive mode because things do happen. and these things can come as some form of service failure. I think a lot of people have missed out on opportunities amongst relationships and friendships and business relationships, to be precise, because of their perception of what they frame scandal as, and which is really what leads us to understand that you can liken scandal to almost what you call crisis, because the impact and the effect is what emanates into crisis. Because sometimes scandalous things can be very, 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 very blown out of proportion. We've heard rumors, we've heard inconsistent statements about brands, about organizations, we've heard things flying in the air, and they sometimes turn out to be some measure of scandal for the brand. Um, um, and in some cases, it's overbloated. So the quality and the readiness of crisis management really helps. I remember uh, there was a case some years ago. Sorry about that. Excuse me. There was a case some years ago, and if you recall, that happened in Queen's College. And Queen's College, there was an issue of a particular teacher and all the rest of it. To cut the long story short, I had the privilege of going, on a fact-finding mission, and just to find out what really happened. We don't just want to limit our thoughts and responses on what we hear on the streets of Facebook, on the pages of social media platforms. And we had so many things that showed that if you are not crisis ready, that if there is a poor crisis management policy or crisis management um, positioning for the brand, for the school, things will go out of hand before you can even explain your narrative, as it were. So I'd like to ask you, right? I don't know if you touched it earlier, but because of those who are just joining us, what do you think causes scandal?
Scandals are caused by different factors, or maybe different factors are responsible for scandals. Uh, Sometimes it's something as simple as a misunderstanding that goes out of hands and escalates to become something big and something scandalous. Normally, if it had been well contained, um, it wouldn't have, if it had been well contained, it wouldn't have gone that far. So I remember the particular example that you're giving now about Queen's College. And well, maybe because of technology, and because we now have access to uh, putting things out in real time, it got out of hands. But it could also have been managed right there, and then they could have had somebody come in to appeal to those recording, or even on recording manage uh, that situation. So yeah, there are many different reasons or many different causes of scandal. But essentially, it comes down to one person being deciding to be, is it the sheep and one is the goat, the way they say it, and for one person to decide to be rational and reasonable about the situation. Else, it just blows out. Another thing is emotional intelligence is very essential in curbing or nipping scandals, because sometimes people don't manage information intelligently, and so what is supposed to be uh, maybe supposed to be confidential or kept off records, or some people are just putting them in a position where they're able to handle sensitive information is actually like handing them a bomb. to destroy an entire community or to destroy an entire nation. So, emotional intelligence, I would say, is one of or the lack of emotional intelligence is another reason why we have scandals and why people are not able to just be in their lane and mind their business. Or if really you have to uh, interfere or interject in a matter, a situation, do it in such a way that you're putting yourself in that person's shoes and asking, if this were to be me, how would I want the situation to be handled? So yeah, I'm not sure we can exhaust the reasons for scandals in this one discussion. There are so many of them.
Thank you for saying that. As when you were speaking, we had Olushola join us. Good morning, Olushola Olumide.
Good morning, Rotimi. Good morning, Fulu. Good morning to our tribe members out there. Good to be here this morning.
So we're talking about scandal-free education. Is it possible? If yes, how do we ensure that we have an education that is scandal-free?
Thank you. I want us to look at it from when you are dealing with positive and normative, what ought to be and what is. The ideal thing is that education should be free from scandals. However, because of different players, because of people's mindset, because of people's selfishness or irresponsibility, I'm not sure if education can be totally free of scandal, as bad as that may sound. Because it's not everybody who is in the system who wants to work for the good of the system. Some are there for what they can get. There are people who are there who want to exploit others. And at times, it's not everybody one sees on the road that is normal. There are people who dress well, who talk well, appear well. Unfortunately, psychologically, they are not normal. But since all we look at the face, we look at the dressing, we look at what is coming out of the person, we assume the person is okay, and the person is really not okay. So there is no other way we can know except you have some esoteric power with which to see through into people's mind beyond their eye and be able to decipher and say this one is going to be a terrible person. Of course, scandal ranges from little to great. Financial issue, sexual issue, relationship issue, professional issue. So scandal could be on anything as long as people chooses not to do the right thing. And do you know that there are many scandals that goes on that have not even been uncovered? Unfortunately, maybe our system too, in a way, permits or allows some level of scandal because nobody is going to hold them accountable. They are like, sorry, who do you want to go and report to? The people you are trying to report us to are also corporate. So these are the many reasons why I think it shouldn't be, but the reality is that scandal do exist within the education space. Thank you.
You brought a different twist to this, and I'd like to also use the opportunity to welcome KK Fanjai. Good morning. Welcome to the Good Morning Education Show.
Good morning. Thank you so much.
So now, Olushola has actually opened our eyes to see that there are sometimes scandals that are not even obvious or probably uncovered. There are some that make the news. There are some that get to be seen. And sometimes probably because it's something that's eating deep into the fabric of such brand and organization. I don't know if KK would like to share with us her thoughts on this subject matter, and also if she agrees with that school of thought. Is it because of our definition? Is it because of our exposure? Why are such scandals, under the rug?
So I came in late, so I'm not sure what scandal you're talking about. I do know that the topic is generally scandal free, but you seem to be referring to a specific scandal, and I missed that part of the conversation. So could
Okay.
maybe somebody clue me in?
Yes, actually, we were not specific with the scandal. We're still talking about the education free scandal. I asked Olushola, is it possible to for education to be free of scandal, to have an education-free scandal, a scandal-free education? And in answering, he also opened us up to the fact that sometimes it's not even all scandals that get to be seen or noticed, that there are times that there are scenarios that organizations have things that you could term scandal and it's not coming out to the public. So I was now asking, okay, if that is so, what could be responsible that that's not being picked, right? And of course, let me even not assume that you believe that education shouldn't be free of scandal. Over to you. Hello, Kiki, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I forgot to unmute my mic. By its very nature, I think the term scandal actually I mean, for it to be a scandal, it means that some level of publicity, would be involved in a sense when you look at the word itself and the meaning of the term scandal. And so having a scandal-free education, I'm just looking at it very literally. Of course, the things that Dr. Olushola said are pertinent. The reality is there are things that do happen, but because they do not, nobody sees them, then nobody would say that it would not be a scandal in that sense. But yes, there are tons and tons of things that happen within the education sector, which if people got to know would be really terrible. But so can you have scandal-free education? I think the management of it is what really matters. And I was looking in the comment section, and somebody talked about I can't remember who it was now that said something about the school manager balancing out you know things that happen in the school, and that's the reality of it. If a school is able to manage the parents, that manage the staff, manage student relations, manage so many things, then you might think that it's a scandal free educational system, but it may not necessarily is. They just have really good managers. So yes, it is possible to have it, because it's not everything that happens in a school that needs to be broadcast out there. But when you have certain individuals in your system, I mean, we might call them celebrities, we might call them people who have money misroad, to be honest with you. For example, I saw somebody who bought a Lexus for his son, and I'm like, what is this? Are you joking? You and this boy live in the same house. Why must you bring the Lexus to school? I saw it on Instablog. Why bring it to school and make a show of it, and then you are posting? I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And the logo of the school was showed. So obviously, people are going to look at that school and say, "What's wrong with you people? Why are you allowing this to happen in your school?" Not to mention the one that happened. I believe it was last week, with again another celebrity, and people twisting things out of shape. What really happened versus what actually happened versus the different reports. So I believe it's possible. If we are able to manage our systems properly, I believe it's possible if we let ego get out of the way. I believe it's possible if, honestly, we have good school administrators and good school managers who, regardless of who you are told what to do. And you're told the value systems of the school. You know what the school is about. But in reality, there might be one or two things that would happen. If they don't meet the public eye, then it might not be termed a scandal, right? But there are things that do happen in our education system that, yeah, that if everybody knew, you'll be wondering what's going on in that school. But yeah, back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
All right, thank you so much. And the question that really we should be asking, and I want to take that to Olushola a little bit. Now that we know that sometimes it's a factor of how well you have good managers, your crisis management skills, your policy and procedures to handle sometimes service failure and the likes, right? But then let's also take a step further, knowing fully well that there are several kinds of scandal. And it's almost difficult to say are there acceptable scandal and non-acceptable scandal. But what do you think? What do you think about the culture of our practice? Because you mentioned something in your opening statement, that sometimes the level of irresponsibility of people within an organization can expose them, to such realities. I would like you to touch a bit more on that as you expand on the subject matter.
Thank you very much for the question. It's so beautiful that as if you are in my thoughts, what next was going on in my head. Our climb, the system appeared to be an accomplice. And we also have problem with sentiments. Somebody has done wrong, and you are trying to bring that person to book. People begin to rally and say, please now, now. We also plead with God. God answers now. Do you want the man to lose his job? Should the man continue to be on that job? And people look at you as you are strange, or they will tell you are wicked. Not until somebody becomes a pedophile, we shout and say, that is scandalous. I was in a school at the weekend session. While interacting with the SS3 students, there was a girl there. She was overly quiet. That got me worried. So I demanded to have a word with her. I asked you, what is your name? She told me. Is this who you are? She looked at me and said, no, this could turn me into this. I'm not an introvert. Over time, shouting down on the student, she just withdrew into her. That was one. The second girl I dealt with, it was talking about house parents and people giving them food. Just shout on them, verbally attack them. I said, really? He said, yes. And that she's not happy. Among our teaching staff, we care little or less about the non-teaching staff. After all, they are the backstage. I tell you, they can ruin the system by their ignorance. Being ignorant is not actually the major problem, but not accepting the fact that you are ignorant. Our culture, somebody forget that you are here, you are a staff. You are looking at the boy from head to toe and say, hey, if not the rain that brought guinea fowl and fowl together, because you felt the boy ball into greater problem. So I feel the culture, the system, there are certain things that have been accepted as norm. Just permit me to give away at it is almost difficult to do your dissertation or your thesis yourself in the higher institution. It's almost an impossible task that you will be the one who will do your thesis yourself from A to Z. By the time you get proposal to the lecturer 1, 2, 3, 4 times, the man is just cancelling the thing without telling you why. I had a case like that, and the boy was like, I needed to go and meet my lecturer and say, sir, what do you want me to do? The man looked at it and he said, now you are talking. You think you know how to write? Do you know it has almost been taken as a norm? Where do you even begin the battle? Who do you report the matter to? So it is a system that allow that. I have a postgraduate student who said the person who was trying to deliver me from my supervisor said, what was your agreement with him? He said, agreement. Okay, if I'm going to support you, you pay 40,000. If I'm going to write it for you completely, you pay 120,000. A postgraduate student. So where do the person take the matter to? Because they will deny it. He says it's not so. And while your mate are submitting and going away, the man, and dissertation could be very subjective. If the man tells you you've not written well, you have not written well. So these are certain things that our culture has enabled. And I tell you, there are many more. Culture, the system has ingrained some level of irresponsibility and ineptitude, and we have taken it as normal, which is not normal. Thank you very much.
All right. Wow, that's quite extensive, and I like the fact that people need to see it from practical sense. And I want KK to also help us, being a practitioner, and sometimes, I love KK's perspective and views. You're a realist and you don't muck about. I want you to tell us the issue of excesses, the issue of compliance, vis-a-vis the issue of policy. Could there be some hybrid collusion? Because you said something about a child having Lexus given to the child by the father, and the father is now using that as a bragging right, and of course, if unfortunately is bragging it to the point of showing the brand of the school. Where is this miseducation coming from? Because we also know, obviously, the current trending news also, and yes, there are blames and all that, but these are things that seem to catch us like by surprise. Is it that these things were not anticipated? Is it that there was no forecast or foresight? Over to you, KK.
So the reality, Rotimi, is unfortunately the world we live in today. Everybody wants their name written somewhere, and it's just unfortunate. It's unfortunate as well that everybody feels that they need to brag about something, they need to say something, they need to do something. We have turned into social media, we live on social media, and so we just feel that anything that happens for our entire life, it should be on social media, whether it should be there or not. So in such situations, where everybody feels like, if for example, I know that Rotimi is a trending topic, and I kind of add Rotimi's name or something that happened between Rotimi and I, which, to be honest, is something that happens. It happens. Should it happen? No, but it does happen, and there are ways to deal with it. But then I bring it on social media, and then I start to talk about it. Right? Of course, everybody will have an opinion about it, and what then happens is it just blooms and becomes something that we shouldn't even talk about, but it now becomes a trending topic. And that's because in this world that we live in, right? I mean, to be honest, there's so much wahala. So people just look for something to divert a lot of their negative energy on. And unfortunately, people would always give themselves, become that person that that gets all of that. And so is this something that people didn't anticipate? I mean, it shouldn't be happening. For example, let me use the trending topic. We shouldn't have a teacher bullying a child, right? We shouldn't have a teacher who is so unprofessional that they bring in their personal views about a parent or the way a parent lives their lives and then projects it on the child. It shouldn't happen. But it does happen. I mean, we shouldn't put our heads in the sand and have an ostrich mentality about things. So it does happen, but it shouldn't. Right. But then should the parent come and then talk about it on social media. I would say I don't think it's necessary, because at the end of the day, we're looking at the child here. Now, that child has been put in a position where they should never have been put in the first place. So, in terms of a school, I think we as school leaders need to begin to look at things, right, and say things like, if something happens within the school, one of our policies is that we discuss it in the school, right? So we need to begin to tweak our policies to be reflective of the realities of the day and age that we live in. But we are not doing that. Another reason is because we are not seeing that has become a safety issue, right? And because it is a safety issue, the name of the school is there, the child's name is there. That's safety for that child. That's safety for that school. If somebody wants to do anything, I mean, we would say God forbid, but they know where to go now to find the child of this certain individual or this certain individuals, right? And that's not something that really should be happening. So we need to learn how to adjust our policies. It needs to be quick enough to be reflective of the day and that we live in. But saying that there's some things that, to be honest, you can never know would happen, Rotimi. You just, but that's why planning comes in. To imagine that there's just some things that you don't know would happen. So it's not so much that you must have all the policies, but you must be in a position where if a policy needs to be tweaked, then there needs to be somebody in place who understands it and tweaks it quickly and communicates it to the community. Also, schools need to learn how to be ahead of the narrative, right? Let me give a quick example. So we had this issue with October 20th, which was a horrible, horrible issue. But there are a lot of schools that didn't even remember that was on October 20th, right? And not only did they not remember, they didn't remember that, especially in Lagos State and in Lekki, that it could become a problem, And so it's almost like we're never ahead of the narrative. We just remember, oh, suddenly it's October 20th is going to happen. Oh yeah, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? And it's those kind of slow responses, right, that allow things to get out of hand. When something happens in the school quickly needs to get ahead of that narrative. Call the parties involved and say, oh, we noticed this. Because you can't tell me that it's such a big thing these days, social media, that you can't tell me people are not monitoring stuff like that, right? So we could quickly get ahead of the curve, quickly talk to the people involved, and just keep it in within the school very quickly. Talk to our own members of staff as well and help them understand the fact that you can't just go and be talking anyhow to people about things that happen in your school. It's not your business. It's not your story to tell, right? But everything is now further for gist. And unfortunately, that's the world that we live in. But we really do need to be a lot more professional and get ahead of that narrative. In that way, then, if a scandal does happen, you would see that a school came out quickly, to put their own, unfortunately, side of the story in front of the public. Back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
Thank you very much. When you were speaking, I was just playing different scenarios in my head. And I think that sometimes we might need to use this analogy for schools and educators. We shouldn't be 12 o'clock educators or 12 o'clock schools. It should be 6 o'clock. That you are balanced. There's a part of you that is alive to social realities. And of course, you're also embedded neck deep into your education world as well. Let's welcome Rhoda. Rhoda, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Miss Keke. Hi.
Good morning.
Good
You're
morning.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What a wonderful topic, and I think timely. I don't know, is it continental? I will call it. I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, I love just listening to Miss Keke saying beyond policies, being ahead of the game, just also using your communications very well. Yeah, that was nice.
So, Rhoda, as a
Yeah.
parent, and of course, you're also a practitioner, what do you think could be different? Because I know that sometimes there's this, it's like there's a gap which shows or indicates relationship management issues, because there are schools and there are schools. There are schools that, there's a strong, it's almost like a cult-like connect with parents. And there are some schools it's just merely transactional. Do you think this could be a factor? Because when we see sometimes parents take some issues, yes, of course, children are connected to their parents, so they don't play with it. But to the point where they malign the brand and they start seeing that like there's been an outburst, could it be and it's like a fallout of relationship management, or what do you say? What could be different?
I think is it. So, I mean, I'm a parent, and honestly, I like to see myself even in the education space first as a parent, because it has always been my worldview, and that's because when I look inward and I think about my experience as a parent within school, with my children going through school, I kind of understand it better from the perspective of a school that's supposed to be, one, a business, a social enterprise, a cash cow, or, like you said in your words, transactional versus transformative. It really is about how the brand the positions themselves as, or the school positions themselves at some point. I know schools go through different phases. First, it starts out as a transformative agenda rather than transactional. Then, for many reasons, it moves. Maybe I've got to make it back. It is now transactional. It's more business for me. And then it moves again to, and schools, really have to grow within, these movements at different points in time. And I understand that. But you see, at the end of the day, because we know that education is a social good, and like KK said, it is ultimately about the child. Whether we like it or not, that's where it ends. But to respond to your question, I feel that there is a breakdown somewhere within for this to have happened. Again, if you're a school that has a celebrity or sets of celebrities in your school, you should know what sort of brand you are. You should know. And you should be conscious about that. Yes, they are all parents and all people are equal. I do not disagree with that. But imagine if Vice President Osinbajo's child was in your school. Are you playing the same game? I don't think so. I think things would have in a way sort of like started changing for you, especially the way you share your narrative. So it is what I feel happened in this situation, and I by no means I'm not claiming to know everything, but it's a breakdown of relationship management. It's a breakdown of communications. It's also a breakdown at that point when those things were happening. It's a breakdown of damage control. Schools have not sort of woven into their I don't know, should I call it policy? Should I call it yeah, I think that's what's happened there. Because when I reflect on how the situation that happened with the child, that the lady was able to leave, to get to the point of recording herself being, or some, I don't know, whatever happened. The point being that someone did not damage control. And that is why we all heard about it. Because look, these things happen every day in schools. KK, am I incorrect? And KK, I know KK is also a school.
Well, you are very correct.
KK has it. Look, he's not all about big names, though. Please, I think we need to get there, because me too, I've seen a measure of big as a parent and as a practitioner. Let's forget all those things, because I've seen big names doing big messes, and there's no point for us talking about things. Yes,
absolutely.
KK, I don't even want to start talking, because get it. It's not even about the big names. And please, everybody listening, get yourself together. It's not about the big names. You've got to get yourself as a parent to a school that works. Not about the name. It's not about the name. And I can tell you for free that Miss KK here also has celebrities in her school. So it's not even about, so let's not even go there. It's about damage control. Who is the leader? What are the systems? At what point everything went wrong? How was this teacher able in the first place to be a bully? I don't even understand.
Such a
flagrant teacher that is a bully. I want to answer that question first, please. I beg, Mr. How?
And without, it was the audacity of it for me, without impunity. Wait till they happen for you.
I don't understand. How? Let me let Mr. Olushola, reflect on it, because I don't understand. How did we get to have a bully as a teacher, or a teacher as a bully?
Great questions there from Rhoda. Is it that because I don't want to believe that was the first time?
Yeah.
I don't want to believe. Do they profile their staff? Do they do, especially this post-COVID we are in, profiling how to involve mental health?
Yes.
Because it's true. You don't want a situation whereby the seed you didn't grow in your the seed you never planted in your world begin to grow. Because if you are not a kind of parent that monitors very well, you will discover that it's as if you slept, an enemy has come in to sow tears into the life of your children.
Telling you, thank you so much.
It is well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So,
I see a lot of things as a parent. I see a lot.
I would want
I'm so sorry.
KK to add this and also try to wrap up with that, which is
Rotimi.
Is it possible that sometimes we get
I don't think Mr.
locked up?
Rotimi could hear us.
It's okay. We can hear him, I think.
Hello, we can hear him. Can you hear us? Rotimi?
Oh, it's not.
I can hear
It's
you.
not.
Hello?
Okay, you can hear. Okay, good. Okay.
Because Mr. Olushola had spoken actually.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Olushola, you could finish up. I wanted to add a question to what KK and what you were trying to say to KK, but finish up and then KK will wrap up for us.
Okay, I think that is just like Rhoda said, the issue of damage control and who is handling what and what. I think front end, back end. Well, like Rhoda said, if you have one or two celebrities, I think when they blow things out of proportion, you know that the brand can come down dead. But we wouldn't want to wait until there is a celebrity.
Exactly.
The child of a common man should be treated well too.
Absolutely.
For the fact that I will not make noise, I don't want to be heard in public, joining issue with you. It's not a license to treat my child anyhow.
Exactly.
So, and some people are of course also sympathetic. They know that if they go out, the harvest of what you have sown will be more than what you are bargaining for. So deliberately, they will come and meet you, vent and tell you they don't appreciate, they don't do that. They can even take their word out of that place, but they don't want to spoil business for you. But we are not equal. And I think for many fathers, we're a little bit, this is not generalizing. For fathers, as a man, maybe a little bit dispassionate, we feel, okay, no problem, we'll undo it. But if you try it with a mother, you will know that mothers are mothers indeed. Just pray that it is the man that had the issue first and is able to, talk to the wife. But if it is the wife that had the matter first, it is well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that.
I like KK to add to that.
Yeah, Ms. KK.
Could it be that a lot of us that work in big brands tend to get invincible, feel like, well, this is us, we are this, we are big, and then begin to miss the step, because, one could just be wondering what could actually have gone wrong. Could it be that, there's nothing like top brands or the top names or the top brands, and then we become invincible? KK, please address.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rotimi. The reality is, as a brand, everybody, to be honest, is a brand. You might not recognize yourself as a brand. That doesn't mean that you're not a brand. You are a brand, right? And as a brand, right, you're known for something. There's a reason why people would buy a certain type of drink, water, food, clothes, anything. It's because of what the promise of that brand. The reality, unfortunately, is, especially in our part of, maybe not even just in our part of the world, when you belong to a brand that is celebrated a lot, who we term as the big brands, sometimes we feel that we become invincible, and that is sad, because what got you to be that brand that people celebrate and people want to identify with is your processes, right? It's the systems that you have in place. It's the promise that you constantly are delivering on. And so when you stop delivering on that promise, there's already decay that has set in, and eventually it's going to come crashing down. And that's why you see things like this happening, right? Over and over again, we've been hearing small voices saying that things are not working well in certain brands. Unfortunately, that is not being dealt with. It is not being seen as something that should be discussed. And then something this big then comes out. And then you would have people then coming out and saying, that's what happened when I was there. That's what happened. That's what happened. And unfortunately, that is not good for that image. But will anything be done about it? Maybe not, maybe yes. I do hope that something will be done. Because the reality is, in a school, the systems that check what teachers should be doing. As Rhoda said, to be honest, I do have celebrities in my school. I have people in my school who don't even like to put their pictures up because of what they command. But that doesn't mean that their children are not disciplined if they need to be disciplined.
Exactly.
There's a process to things, right?
Exactly.
And there are times where the parents would even call us and say, okay, you know what, I've noticed this about my child. Can you help me deal with it? But that's because of the promise and because of who you have said that you are to the parent community. What is your why as a school? What is your how, right? All of those things are really important. And when you miss it, and you know, Rhoda said something that was so critical. It starts out not transactional, but eventually you find that you get transactional. But must you be transactional all round? No. As a business, there are areas of that business that have to be transactional. But then there are other areas of that business that are not, right? And we need to be able to make those distinctions. And not just make those distinctions, but actually communicate those distinctions, not just to the people who are within our system, but those who are connected to our system based on, you know, whatever it is that we do and the people that are engaging with us. For example, there was a day one of the people in my school, one of the parents in my school, was having a live session, and he put me on, and I was so shocked because I wasn't even expecting to get on, and I was like, see our school mommy, and I didn't expect that at all, right? But that took me somewhere I didn't even expect it to take me to, right? And that's what it is about. There are times where people have. Look, I can go on and on. Let me just stop. Let me just stop. But the reality is, a brand has a promise, right? And everybody connected to that brand needs to understand that promise and needs to be a flag-carrying member for that promise. And back to you, Mr.
Thank you. And I want Rhoda to wrap up the show today.
Rhoda has to.
Yes. So
you need to wrap it up for us. So this is what I want you to do. Right. I know that, you know, and I teach this most times, that service failure do occur. Something that you didn't plan can happen. Something that you were not careful about could happen. But, you know, with service failure, you could also have what you call service recovery. How can brands that are wrapped up in scandal use that scandal as an opportunity to bounce back? Because, you know, like Olushola said the other day, you know, failure should be seen as an incident, not an identity. So how can brands that get, you know, entangled sometimes with things like this, how can they use it even as an opportunity to also boost their brand back? Over to you.
Thanks, Rotem. I think it's a very good question. And, you know, I wouldn't even claim to have sole expertise on this. So, but I'll just sort of use case scenario, or what I thought of when we had the issue with the lady. I can't remember the child. I don't want to call the name, but the child that was treated, you know, badly, and she went viral at this period. And I thought that moment that the school actually did miss an opportunity, you know, to leverage on that, well, negative publicity. But you know, in the world of repositioning and brand recovery, there isn't really a negative publicity. Exactly. It is all publicity. Now, it is what you do with it that then says how you are ready for such brand recovery or repositioning or whatever it is that you decide to term it. At that time, I thought that the school lost an opportunity to talk about how they were dealing with a situation like that. For instance, how does this school, what is the school's policy around dealing with, you know, corporal punishments, and what were the good examples of of conscious discipline or conscious I don't know what it is. You know, there's a separate name. People call it different things. People say instead of corporal punishment, they call it conscious discipline. So you just change the terminologies and you begin to show examples of how you succeeded in doing those things, rather than this one example that has been the pain point for you. So you then share 15 dedicated videos that show different things that you have done in helping children grow, that position to. The same thing happened with QC when children were, you know, sick and dying, and I don't know if it's death now. I don't know. Let me not say I take that word back. When they had the water issue, I also thought that QC lost an opportunity then. And I have to say QC because it's the federal school and we can do this. I thought they also lost an opportunity to talk about how they were going ahead to make sure that water was clean, and how the students there was student campaign, and how they were leveraging on student voice to sort of like we do that student recovery. So I think that there are multiple opportunities for schools, especially in this case, big brands like this, to just take a negative story and make it positive. In this case that we are dealing with, how it is, first of all, there was a live session. So how do you leverage on a live session, a series of live sessions that brings this parent back on and talks about, what the school is doing in terms of growing and what the school has done? And there's always opportunities for you to change that story. So if you don't want to do a live session, as a redress opportunity, if you want to use videos, if you want to use conferences, virtual conferences, if you want to use, there's a number of things. If you remember what I think was Lekki, was it BIS? They did it. They went ahead and started championing the cause for mental health. And then it has become an agenda for them. So I don't know. I don't claim expertise to this, but I'm just saying that an opportunity is also, this should not be a missed opportunity for any school going through some level of scandal. This shouldn't be. There's one we saw the other day, this parents, very wealthy parents of a child that is under 5. And this child they bought a Jeep to the school as a gift. Ridiculous. And with a lot of money showing. Now that's something that school, I don't even understand it. I don't know if it's, I don't know what they're doing there. But again, another missed opportunity to redress the situation. So I'm not sure how well I addressed it, but yeah, I just feel like the opportunity to use the same system that was used against you to use to bless you back, so to speak.
Thank you. That's amazing. We had to, get to this point, and our audience are excited about this. I will just add this as we close, that the school involved can also come on the Good Morning Education Show to use it as an opportunity.
Definitely. So
and then of course, the lady that brought up the life thing, people are still going. She got a lot of followers because she was first on private and all that. I think it won't be bad for her to have a courtesy visit around the school, and then they have like a tea session with her. Just to show the optics are in their favor. Well, on that note, I'm afraid we have to stop. Thank you, Valerie Jacob, for joining. Olatunde Adebayo, thank you for joining. Ayo Bolanle, I know, thank you for joining. All our Secret Tribe members, thank you for joining. If you're watching the show, thank you for joining. Thank you, Rhoda, for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, KK, for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, KK.
And thank you, Olusola, for joining. Thank you, Fini, for joining. And of course, I'll thank myself. Thank you for joining.
Good.
On that note, we have come to the end, and like we usually do, we're going to sign off with our usual plug line at the count of 2. 1, 2, go. It's
always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Bye.
Bye.